now that we have the interior, the walls furred out, knowing that this is a full foundation, a full height foundation with no walkout, we're going to start working on bringing in all the walls for the rest of the basement. So when you work off of the plans that the architect gives you, what you need to realize is that their drawings, typically in this particular case, are hand drawings, and you have to make those drawings into reality. Sometimes what they draw doesn't work exactly as intended, and so it's your job is to make the drawings actually work. And what that really references to is the way that the walls and the loads are potentially going to be dropping down and ultimately getting to the foundation. Sometimes what they draw doesn't accomplish that very well, and it ultimately is going to cause a lot of expensive beams that you would just as much rather avoid. And so sometimes it means you have to shift their walls over and potentially not actually do it the way they ultimately intended. Typically in this case, however, they're very close and they do a pretty good job, but sometimes we just have to adjust things, and that's not really a big deal, but it's just something you need to be aware of. Okay, one thing over here is looking at the hand-drawn floor plans. I noticed that this area is not going to actually occur. If we turn on the ghost layer by hitting Command 8, actually in ArchiCAD 15 it's called Trace Reference Layer. You can actually show that here. In fact, let's set up our quick views really quick for the main level, because we're going to be referencing it a lot when we draw this lower level. So let's go back up. So you hit Command 6, goes up a level, and Command 5 goes down a level. So Command 6 goes up, and these are my keys. These are my key sets. Some other people may have different ones, but these are my key sets. So we go up a level, and we show enough of a window, and then what we want to do is we come over and we click on this button right here. I don't know if it's going to give us, it's called the view map window. And then we come over and we click on plans, and then we control click, and it brings up a window that says save current view. So we click that. It's going to bring up another window, and in my case, how I set this up is on project map I hit none, and then the name of it is the main floor plan, so we just leave that alone. And then the only other thing that potentially may change is under the dimensioning. I may change it to something else. I call this, that's what I set this to, just Highland Group. And then I hit create. Everything else is generally all set up the way I want it to. If you happen to want to change some different things, you can. In my particular case, I don't really need to. And then you hit create. And you see now that it created a quick view to that. Now say that you want to go and change something. What you do is you highlight it, come down to settings, and then you can just change it to whatever you want, and then hit OK, and it'll save that information back into that view set. Okay, so if you want to use, we'll talk about the trace or the ghost story or the trace reference layer a little bit further on, but if you want to enable the main level to be a trace reference, what you can do is you can come over here, you can hold down the control button, click on it, and then show as trace reference. And then you click that, and then when you move from layers to layers, or from levels to levels, it'll keep showing up for you. So you'll be able to use that as a reference. And we're going to use that a lot on the lower level, because it is helpful in making sure that your walls are accurately transferring down where they need to. So anyway, here we are on the lower level. So let's do the same. Let's set up that view set for here. So let's control click on the plans, save current view. You can see that it saved your original preference to have the ID turned off. So lower level, then just hit create. And then what it's really important to do here is you really want to organize these things the way that you would do your layout book. So if your layout book shows site plan, footing, foundation, um, lower level, main level, upper level. You want to organize it that way. The reason why you want to do this is because later on, as you're building that layout book, you'll be able to drag and drop them in there, and you won't have to sit there and rearrange everything because you properly set all your view sets up in the first place. It's one of those things that you can be lazy on the front end, and it'll cost you time on the back end, or you can do it correct the first time, and it'll save you time down the road. So it's what you should all. When it's like I always say, consider your steps, count your steps. How many steps does it take to do something? If there's a way to do it faster, do it that way. This comes into grouping. It comes into all aspects of drafting. If you can find ways to do it quicker, do it. Okay, so now that we have this thing turned on, what we're going to do here, since this apparently is just going to be a pop out, and then there won't be a actual foundation underneath it. What we simply do is, excuse me, what we simply do here is select, go over here to the arrow tool, or hit the number 1 key. If you see, if we're over here and you hit the number 1 key, it takes you to the arrow tool, and just select those. So you'll have all those selected, and then shift select the bottom ones to deselect them. Then hit the delete key, get rid of that, and then take these. You can turn off your ghost stories. It'll make it a little bit, or your trace reference stories. It'll make it a little bit easier. So that goes away. Then just select that one, that outside wall. Hit Command Option I to intersect, and then the exact same thing here. Command Option I, or select it again. Command Option I, and there you have it set in there. Now you can turn your reference layer back on. And usually when we have an overhang like this, I like to come in and I change the layer here to stone, because it's kind of an outside thing, and I like to dot that in there just so that anybody knows. Oops, I forgot to turn on here's the continuous line. So click there, and see I'm using the trace reference layer to draw that in there. Makes it really easy. It's really handy. Okay, the second thing we want to, now that we've got that drawn, the thing that we want to do is take a look and see, is there going to be a cold storage in on this house? And on this house there will be. So we come over here, and we're going to hold down the Option button, and you'll see that when you hold down the Option button, it gives you kind of a little ink dropper tool. And when you hover over something and hold down the Option button and you click on it, it's going to grab those settings, and so it changes the layer set to that. We'll want to change this to a continuous wall, and have your wall run through here like so, and then it's going to join into this wall right here. And so we're just going to come right here, and then we'll terminate the wall right there. Select this wall, and then intersect them. Command Option I to intersect. Obviously we don't need this little bit here, so what we're going to do is we'll select it and just delete the appropriate parts, as we just did there, and you can see that's all done. Now you can see that if you hit the Command 7 button, you can see that these lines here, this thick line here, that's the hot side of the wall. It's the selecting side of the wall. And it's another important point about doing these doing plans, especially in ArchiCAD, is you want to be very consistent about this. It's like, and we've always taught that we dimension from the outside to the right, to the right, to the right, to the outside, and from the outside to the top, to the top, to the top, to the outside. And so you need to draw your walls that way. All of your walls and everything, especially your walls, all need to be referenced to the right and to the top. They should never ever be any other way. If you're doing it some other way, then you're doing it wrong. So kind of blunt, but there you go. Okay, now that we have that put in there, what we're going to do is let's bring down the stairs, because the stairs are going to kind of be the starting point of everything. So let's go up here to the main level, grab the stairs, and we'll thing you'll notice is that the stairs are here, but so is this wall. And this wall from the upper level, or from the main level anyway, is 9 feet tall. So we need to change that to 8 foot 9 and a half. Otherwise, when everything we draw on will be incorrect. Now down in the basement on an 8 foot 9 and a half ceiling, you really can't put an 8 foot door in there. So all of our doors on the lower level are all going to be 6'8". So just come in and set that in there. And you may have to reference that at some point, but just remember that that's how that works. Now the lower level here is going to have a this. You're actually going to see this come over, and this wall is going to be like that, because we're going to actually have that be the underside of the stairs. So hold if you need to select that, so you can see if you hit down, what happens is if you're on the arrow tool and you hover above something that has two items on it, so right now we have a line and a wall that are in the same plane. So if you hit the tab key, what happens, you can see that it's going to change to the different elements. So right now if I click, it'll click that line. I'll click off of it. Now if I tab again, you can see that the wall gets highlighted, and if I click, it'll grab that. That's how you can actually select elements that are on top of each other like that. And it doesn't happen a lot, but it's a good tool to remember, because it makes it really hard to select things otherwise. Additionally, one thing that helps is if you are on the tool, if you're trying to select a line, for example, if you're on the line tool right here, that's also the number 4 key. If you hover above it, you'll see the number 4 right there just shows up. Okay, if you're on the line tool and you're trying to select a line, you can easily select it, because it's going to select the tool that you're on ahead of everything. It gives priority to that. Okay, so we have this wall here. So type in the 3 key, or the wall tool. You'll see when I type 3, it'll bring up the wall tool. Then hit, since we want to adjust this thing back, I hold down the command button, and then here's your reference point, and then just cut it, so delete it. And then obviously we're not going to want those, we're going to want this railing in there, so hit the 4 key, and we can select that, delete that out of there, and we're going to put a break line on these stairs. And so we'll select that, hit the number 2 key to change the pen, space click, and then shift click those in there. We're going to hold down, click on the line somewhere, hold down the mouse key. It's going to bring up the palette tool. Set it, and you want it to be this arrow point right here. Click right there. Make another click. Another 2 clicks to put all these points in there. And we're going to click right in the center. Come over to this part right. Come over to the radius tool. Bring it out and then stretch it out. Stretch it out, and then group them all together. And now you have a break line. And then you can just delete all the rest of these and be done with it. That's a very simple way to create your break line. Okay, and you'll see that this thing's adjusted poorly, so what you want to do is hit Control Option A for adjust, and it'll adjust it back. Additionally, you can be on the wall tool and just hold down the command button to cut it. It'll basically split it and adjust it to where it needs to go. That's actually a really handy tool to kind of remember, is that whatever line, if you're on the line tool and you want to adjust it to something, if you hit number 4 to go to the line tool, you can actually adjust it, or you can split it just by holding down the command key. You don't have to always do adjust, split, and stretch. Just one of those things just to remember. Okay, so we're going to delete that, and then we have this wall is going to extend over all the way to the foundation, all the way to this foundation. So we select it, type the number 3 key, hold down the command button to adjust it. Additionally, you could have hit Control Option A to adjust it. Here we'll do Control Option A, and you see that it works just the same. Now I noticed that on their drawings that they didn't go and bump this out, but they didn't bump this out on the lower level, but we're going to leave it in there because it'll actually be useful to us, and we can capture a little bit more space than we otherwise would have, and so we'll just go with that. Now, one thing you can do if you want is you can actually adjust this thing up. I tend not to do that. I don't like doing that. I like to leave these FERDAL walls all alone and let them just do their own thing and ignore them completely. And so what I do is I actually come in and I make a new wall up to that point, and it doesn't negatively affect anything. Nothing bad happens if you do it other way. I just think this is cleaner because it lets the grouping of your FERDAL walls remain the same. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and then we are going to, and I'll make a new recording so we can keep these things